My father was taught in 1924. Last year.
Welcome back to Soul Talk Season 2. In our last session, I talked about the important relationship skill of assertiveness. In this final session, we're going to talk about using assertiveness with the people in your life who are a bit more challenging.
I relied on interviews rather than 15 of a year, whatever he's done. I've never worked. Because
Ow, 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 ow.
We're focusing on dealing with people you might define as difficult. Before we get started, I need to preface this by saying that none of the insights and tools shared in this session are designed to be used as weapons against the difficult people in your life. While these people may be hard work, stressful, perhaps even controlling or manipulative, what I'm sharing today is not about getting back at them. In fact, what I hope will happen is you learn some better ways to protect yourself from their often terrible behavior, while also giving them an opportunity to change and grow. You see, very difficult people often end up quite lonely and isolated. They're too scary and reactive to be honest with, so we tiptoe around them instead, like we're walking on eggshells. They don't know how frustrated, hurt, and upset other people are with them because people don't usually bring it up with them, which of course means they keep on behaving in ways that drive those around them crazy. So, as you shortly listen to the wonderful people who have volunteered to share their experiences with difficult people with us, and as you listen to the tools I'll share with you later on, please keep this in mind. The aim of this session is to learn to protect yourself from your difficult friends, acquaintances, workmates, family members, but in a kind and compassionate way.
Sometimes difficult people are even those who you love and care for. In my early years of marriage, my wife suffered pretty bad postnatal depression. And as a young person, I did not really know at all what to do and had no tools, no skills to really help or support her in that. So what she did was, when she spiraled into this depression, she would push those close to her away. And for me, that came with feelings of rejection, not having the tools to deal with that. So my response was going back to my roots of avoidance and leaving, or being pushed away, so I went away. Where I would go would be back to my business, where I would work all the hours under the sun, so I didn't have to be at home and deal with that. That did not work for our marriage. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for our family. It was pretty well a disaster waiting to happen in our marriage.
I have dealt with family members who have been very difficult. I've dealt with friends who have been very difficult. Some have been very traumatizing moments, and some have just been sort of superficial damage that's been easy to work through. Yeah, just all around toxic people who really don't have a lot of empathy for other people and can't see the ways in which they are hurting other people, and so therefore just continue to keep hurting and keep damaging, even when someone says, stop, don't do that anymore, which obviously is the ultimate description of a difficult person, is that they just continue being difficult and they can't see that they're difficult. They would hurt me in a way, and then I would soak all of that up and not react in any way, shape, or form. And then as time went on with those difficult people, I would start to predict their actions so that I could keep myself safe from anything that they might try to do to me. So I definitely put a lot of walls up to protect myself. So I shut down emotionally and protected myself, and I was always very hyper aware of not only what that difficult person would do, or their body language or their actions, but also everyone. So I'd constantly be watching everyone's actions and body language to make sure that I could keep myself safe.
The most difficult people in my life while I was growing up, I didn't know how to deal with that. So I would retreat into myself. I spent a lot of time in my room and I seethed about it. I'm an angry person when I can't deal with a difficult situation or a difficult person. Difficult people, as I sort of emerged into the workplace, it's not like they went away. And I think the tricky part of that is in your work environment, it's not appropriate to seethe and it's not appropriate to get angry. There's a part of me that would go to gossip and go to trying to ruin another person's reputation in order that you didn't have to connect with them. When I became a youth pastor, I assumed that working within a church environment, that difficult people would be less. However, the sad and sobering thing I've discovered is that the most difficult people and the people that have caused me the most pain in my life are other people who love Jesus. Because I knew the right thing to do was to not go to bed angry, and because I knew the right thing to do was to not gossip or yell at people, it came home with me. And I started to lose my joy. I'd lose my sleep. I'd lose the ability to connect with my family and those that I love the most. I'd get hard. And I guess the saddest part for me was that in not dealing well with difficult people, I'd lose who Jesus was.
Why are difficult people so difficult? I've personally never met someone I would describe as difficult who isn't carrying a whole lot of hurt and pain from their past. Their poor behaviour towards others and their overreactive nature comes from a place of brokenness. Understanding this can help us temper firm boundaries with compassion. As part of this, one major reason why difficult people behave the way they do is their reluctance to experience feelings of powerlessness, disappointment, rejection, or guilt. It's their fear of feeling powerless that makes them try to control everything and everyone around them. They cross boundaries to get what they want. They won't take no for an answer and will usually either sulk or blow up if you try to say no to them. That's because they're afraid of things being out of control. They don't know how to cope with the unexpected. The fear of feeling disappointed leads to overreactions if you let them down, or if you promise something but don't deliver, or if you say no to a request. The fear of feeling guilty makes the difficult person unteachable. They tend to overreact to any suggestion they're in the wrong, avoid being confronted, and won't apologize for anything, or back down from an argument even if they're proven wrong. Everything is always someone else's fault, not theirs, so they do a lot of complaining, blame shifting, and behaving like a victim. Finally, difficult people will generally do anything to avoid feeling rejected. This is why they can be so judgmental and suspicious of others, and why they're so quick to dismiss forever anyone who crosses them. They hate feeling rejected, so they write people off before people can write them off. Now, all of us can be difficult sometimes, but how can we tell if we're one of these highly difficult people? Well, here are some of the most common traits. Difficult people take offense easily. I tend to think it's their superpower, that they're able to get offended at literally anything you say or do. Difficult people are often emotionally unstable. You never know what mood they're going to be in, and they can change between moods very rapidly. Difficult people tend to have an agenda when helping others, expecting something in return. If they help you with something, then ask for your help. If you say no for some reason, you'll probably get the "after all I've done for you" reaction. Difficult people don't listen well to others. Rather, they have a constant need to persuade others to their point of view, and they only hear what they want to hear. Finally, difficult people play mind games, like twisting people's words or deliberately misinterpreting what's been said. They might text you repeatedly or hang up on you and give you the silent treatment. They might turn up at your house even though you've asked them to wait for an invite, or continually tell you about their issues with your performance, or unfavorably compare you to someone else. I think one of the hardest things to deal with is growing up with a parent like this. Because when the child tries to raise the problems they see, their parent turns what they've said back onto them, always claiming the child is the one with the issue. I've had a number of clients over the years who have ended up questioning their own sanity because their parents have twisted things around so much they no longer trust in their own judgment. Now again, please remember, we're not talking about these things to shame people. This is so you can protect yourself and your own mental health. It's so they can start to see what their behavior is doing, and hopefully it's also so the relationship can begin improving in the long term. I love what New Zealand counsellor David Riddell says about these people. He says that the difficult people in our lives are God's invitation to us to grow up. And that's a great way to think about them. Learning to deal with highly difficult people grows us and grows our relationship skills, and that's got to be a good thing, right? So how do we deal with difficult people? Well, we start learning how to verbally push back against their behavior and comments. Remember that assertiveness is about honesty, so we get more honest with them, but we do so respectfully, which means we can't afford to let things build to the point where we're ready to explode. We need to get onto it early. Here are some examples of verbal pushbacks. Let's say your difficult workmate or family member is trying to manipulate you into doing something you don't want to do. You could say something like, "I'll need to think a bit more about that one before I give you an answer." Or, "Are you trying to push me into this because that's how it feels?" Or, "We'll need to keep negotiating on that one." Or let's say they've been deliberately insulting you. Perhaps they've labelled you or accused you of something untrue. You could try a pushback like, "Why would you think it's all right to be so rude?" Or my personal favourite, "I'm not going to continue this conversation with you until you can talk to me like an adult." Or perhaps they've deliberately misconstrued what you've said to them. You could try something like, "No, once again, you've misunderstood what I'm saying. Let me say it one more time." Or you could try, "Yes, you could take offense at that, or you could just hear what I'm saying." Or perhaps you could say, "I can't work out why you're hearing things I never said." Now, you may well be sitting there listening to this thinking, I could never say that to the difficult people in my life because they would just blow up and it would make it so much worse. Now, if you are, there's a name for this. It's called second guessing, and it's a terrible habit to get into. Second guessing is editing, altering, or avoiding the truth to protect yourself. There are two major problems with second guessing. The first is it is exhausting for you. Let's say you have a very difficult colleague called Blake, and you need to raise the way he speaks to you. Second guessing sounds like this. "Man, Blake was so rude to me yesterday. I really should say something about it. Oh, but the last time someone brought something up with him, he totally overreacted. Maybe I could say it like this. Perhaps if I just put it in this kind of language. Oh no, he just wouldn't get it. I think he would just get mad. You know what? I'm just going to leave it." Exhausting, right? The other problem with second guessing is that the difficult person doesn't learn from your honesty. You're putting peace above honesty, so they don't know how you really feel about them or their behavior. At some point in our lives, we need to understand that offense can't be given. It can only be taken. If you are speaking the truth to someone and you plan to say it respectfully, then don't worry about how they're going to react. Difficult people will frequently take offense even when none was intended, and regardless of how you convey it. When will we learn that we can't control other people's responses to us? If Jesus could walk the earth for 33 years and heal the sick, show compassion to the outcasts, encourage, minister to, and comfort hundreds, yet be misjudged and hated to the point where he was crucified for it, we haven't got much chance. But our responsibility is to speak the truth in love. Their response to our honesty is their responsibility. Did you get that? My responsibility is to speak the truth in love. Their response to my honesty is their responsibility. Now, let me just caution you, if you're not used to being assertive, don't start practicing on the difficult people in your life first. You don't want to be re-traumatized by their reaction. Begin with people that will welcome your honesty. A second caution, if there's a risk the difficult person might physically react, then talk with a counsellor or someone wise about this before doing anything else. You need to stay physically safe. Finally, if the whole topic of dealing with a difficult person in your life feels quite traumatic, especially if it's one of your parents, then please reach out for some help. Those wounds need working through and healing from before you decide what to do next about the relationship.
So things weren't working. Life wasn't working. It was difficult. Something had to change. I heard this line, "My response is my responsibility." I had to have a weekend away thinking about this, that I'm actually in charge of how I respond. If I deal with my buttons and things like that in some sort of way on the journey, I can actually be responsible for how I react in a situation dealing with a difficult person. I don't need to avoid difficult people. But the biggest thing that I've learned is that we need difficult people. They do us a favor. They're the ones that push our buttons, right? They're the ones that highlight my brokenness when I used to think it was all about avoiding that difficult person. So difficult people do me a favor and do us a favor because they're the ones that highlight our brokenness.
The turning point for me would be when I got to about 20, maybe 19 or 20, and I had actually chosen to distance myself from specific family members to remove myself from the constant toxicity that they were throwing at me. And I distanced myself, and that gave me the space to start looking inwardly rather than constantly being on a survival mode. I was recognizing certain coping mechanisms and trauma responses that I could see as unhealthy. I began that journey with taking all of those things to God first. He was the only one that I could go to with that information first, because I couldn't be vulnerable in that space anyway. I couldn't be vulnerable with other people at that moment. So I just took those things to Jesus, and I kept taking them to him for healing, which obviously is what started this whole journey of being able to talk about stuff like this. I have learned to definitely put boundaries in place, not say yes to everything that they ask of me, and also to not ever take things personally, because people are often results of their own trauma and they're reacting to their environments, and it's not always about me, it's about what they're experiencing. So knowing that has really helped me be able to separate myself from what a difficult person might throw my way.
I think you realize at some point that how you are dealing with this is not working. My dentist bills were insane because I was grinding my teeth at night. And so when you realize that the pain of being like this is so bad, you have to change. And so I realized that in leading a faith community, the way in which I deal with difficult people will become the model for how other people do. And so I can't expect anybody else to do something that I am not doing. This is going to mean that we need to have conversations with difficult people. We cannot allow bad behavior and crazy to be in our communities or in our small groups or in our household. We have to confront it. And the model within which we do that is we get our heart right first, and then we go to the person and we say, look, there's something going on. This is what I see. And then we go, what do you see? When this happens, this is the damage or the experience that I see. What do you see? And then bottom line, this is not a way in which we behave here. Learning to deal with difficult people well has made a huge change for me. It's meant that I sleep better at night. It's meant that my relationships with my husband and my children don't get tainted by the difficulty that I'm having in a church relationship or in a work relationship. It means because I can deal with that, then I can be fully present with them. It also means, in terms of leading our faith community, it means that I can get to a place where my heart genuinely loves people. And when you can genuinely love people, you can lead with vision and hope.
I hope this session has helped upskill you to deal more appropriately with the difficult people in your life so that you can keep your dignity around them and protect those relationships instead of writing them out of your life. You know, we can all be a bit difficult sometimes, can't we? So let's remember to be kind, honest, and gracious in all of our interactions with others. Congratulations! You've reached the end of Soul Talk Season 2. I hope it's been helpful. Can I pray for you? Father, we thank you that your desire is that we would live whole, healthy lives. We thank you that you desire to comfort us, that you desire to bring healing, that you desire to bring wisdom to our personal lives, but also to our relational lives. And so we invite you to do that. We invite you to come into our lives, and where there are problems in the areas of trust or forgiveness, where we're struggling with assertiveness or dealing with difficult people, we ask you to come and bring your power, your wisdom, your strength, your comfort, your insight to those areas of our lives, that our relationships would be more reflective of what you are like, Father God. Amen.
Well, that's the end of Soul Talk Season 2. The topics we've covered are just a few of the more than 100 covered at Living Wisdom courses. So, if you think you're ready to upgrade your people helping skills or need a big boost to your mental and emotional health, then check out livingwisdom.co.nz for details. Or, if you're a young adult, you can actually book in to do a Soul Tour course with Belinda and her husband Matt at soultour.co.nz. Lastly, if you've enjoyed this series, then please tell people about it and share it on social media. Until next time, ka kite anō.